Hey y'all, welcome back to another video. My name's Shannon. If you're new here, make sure to hit that subscribe button down below so you can stay up to date on all my latest videos. So it's been about a month and a half since you guys last saw me. And it's now Wednesday and I'm posting. So two things, I plan to start posting twice a week now. I am going to be doing vlogs on Sunday, more vlog type style videos, and then Wednesdays are going to be Wellness Wednesdays, which are going to be like tips for university and law students and other grad students that have like stress and anxiety in their lives. I'm not a professional counselor. I have a psychology degree from undergrad, but overall I just want to be able to give my own advice of what's helped me with my stress and anxiety, especially with during my time in law school. I lost 30 pounds my first year due to stress, so I want to be able to provide the tips that has helped me in the last 2 years, especially kind of combat with the stress and anxiety that's happened with school. On the other side of that, obviously it's been a month and a half since I've last been here. I have been studying for the bar exam, which was on July 27th and 28th. And we are awaiting results, which is going to take 4 to 6 weeks from when we took it. So we're about a week and a half, this is week 2 of waiting. So I have 2 to 4 more weeks of waiting. And so I decided after posting the productivity video, I was rushing while filming some of the following videos that I was trying to get out for you guys. And I realized I just didn't want to put that quality of content out for you guys. Like, for me, YouTube's supposed to be a fun little side project. It's not supposed to be everything. Like, I just want to have fun with it. And it wasn't really becoming that fun. It wasn't really being fun. It felt like more of becoming an extra stressor. So I decided to take a step away and focus on studying for the bar because that was the most important thing at that point in time. That was top priority. And so I decided to step away for a bit. And yeah, now we're back. And I'm kind of rebranding. So if you notice, my name has changed to Jenna Christine. And now I'm posting twice a week and kind of changing up the types of videos I do. But I hope you guys enjoy. So today we're doing the 10 things that I wish I knew before law school. And yeah. So let me know if you guys like this style of video. I'm testing it out. I'm seeing how I like it. And I'm trying out some new editing stuff. So we'll see how it goes, okay? So my number one tip to really any college student or law student or really any person, even in the workforce, is know your limits. So like take your mental days when you need it, or take like your mental breaks when you need it. Essentially what like that means is, for me, like, I had days where I knew I was trying to study and I wasn't retaining anything. And so for me, I would go to the park and play with Jaeger, or I would go to I would go out to dinner with Nick. I would go and take a bath and have a wine night in the back by myself. Like, I would have time by myself. I also recharge around people, so I would go and hang out with people that weren't law school people. I'd call my family. I would take like 15 to 20 minute breaks, sometimes longer if I needed them, but take those days if you need those days. So like, I also made sure I scheduled like YouTube time for myself. All right, so I'm also looking at my notes, so I made notes for myself. Number 2 is an important one: work at your own pace. So like, don't worry about what anybody else is doing. With this, what I learned, especially after my first year, is the way that you study is not going to be the same as how other people study. And this kind of goes with my number 3 as well, so I'll get more into this again. But don't worry about what other people are doing, honestly, because like, don't worry if they're like 4 weeks ahead of you in outlining, or they have like 500 flashcards done and you haven't even done 2. Because frankly, your brain works completely different than their brain. Like you could sit in class, like some people can sit in class and completely understand. Other people, that doesn't work for them. Also, like some people need to do their papers. Like I remember, like we would do research papers. I started doing my research the second weekend for my research paper that was due at the end of the semester. I didn't finish my paper till the end of the semester, but I was doing research throughout the entire semester. I didn't start writing that paper until a week before. Whereas I know some people, they didn't have their topic until about midterm time, and they finished their paper like 2 weeks before it was due, so they could keep editing it. So it's just, people have different paces, people have different ways of doing it. And so that's like the biggest thing, like that's a big thing, is make sure you're just like working at your own pace and doing what's comfortable for you, because you're gonna hear people, like I know I'm guilty of this, where I was like, oh, I'm a speed reader, like I can easily read like this 40-page reading in like an hour and a half and be fine. Whereas like if you're not like that and it takes you 4 hours to do a 40-page reading, that's fine. Just know what your pace is and know how to set up your schedule in a way that's successful for you. So going off of number 2, my third tip is you know what works for you. So don't fix what's not broken. Especially if you're in grad school or law school or med school, you know what works for you. And if you don't know at this point, you better figure it out fast. Like I didn't study a lot in undergrad, but I knew roughly what worked for me. Like outlines work best for me. But if flashcards work, like I know for law school, they were like, do outlines, you need to do outlines. Have you started your outlines yet? If you're not an outline person and you're a flashcard person and you know flashcards work for you, do flashcards. You can still do an outline and maybe transfer to those to flashcards, like do what you're comfortable with. But if you know that flashcards are how your brain memorizes, do flashcards. Because I know so many students that after our first set of finals, they were like, oh, I messed up. Because at least for my class, like that was like, at least for law school, you only have one set of finals. Like you don't have exams during the semester, you don't have anything. You have one exam for each class, and that dictates your grade for the entire class. So if you know something works for you, do it. If you don't, try a few different things and figure out what items work for you. And I recommend doing that earlier on in the semester. My fourth piece of advice is it's okay to keep your hobby. I recommend actually keeping a hobby, especially if you're in law school. So don't feel guilty for doing it. The first year of school, like law school specifically, they make you feel like you need to be going go, 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 go. And in reality, like, well, that's important to be like making sure school is your top priority. Keeping your hobby actually helps with taking mental breaks. Also, it allows, like, if it's a creative hobby, it allows you to be more creative. If it's something that brings you happiness, it actually helps decrease your stress. This is something I've realized. It also gives you something to talk about in job interviews. So, like, I know our career center at the school, at the law school, recommends to put an interest section at the bottom of your resume. And mine includes a YouTube content creator, and I actually got brought up in an interview recently of what does that mean. So I explained what that meant. Like, I create videos for fun, and they were like, oh, that actually could be a really good marketing tool for jobs, because we've been trying to figure out how to do that. And if you're comfortable talking in front of a camera, that could be huge, because that's a huge asset for them, because they didn't realize, like, a lot of like law firms especially don't realize, like, that's helpful. Tip number 5, and people may disagree with me on this, but family comes first. Irregardless of what they say at orientation, to me, family comes first. And I say this as I had multiple classmates lose family members, whether it be grandparents, some lost their parents. My own grandma was diagnosed with lung cancer during my last year. So for me, my last, so I found out that grandma had cancer during the fall semester about 2 weeks from Thanksgiving. And Thanksgiving is typically the week before finals. And they typically tell you don't go home for Thanksgiving, don't see your family, like focus on you, like you have to tell your family like you can't do that. I honestly said screw it, I'm going home because I have all 4 grandparents. I know I'm very lucky in that regard, but I also don't know how much time I get to spend with them. So you bet your butt that I got on a plane and flew up there, even with COVID, even with everything. I took my exams remote because we had that option when I came home, like back here, like I took my exams down here in Raleigh. But I went home because to me, I knew that I was not going to get those memories back, and if they were to pass away, then I wasn't going to see them. Like, that's why I say family comes first, and I get not everybody's family dynamic is the same as mine, but if you have people that are like family or that you have as your chosen family, like just remember that they're there after law school. Law school is 3 years, and people are like, oh well, it's only 3 years, like they can get over it. It's not guaranteed that they're going to be there after 3 years. Just saying. And I'm sorry that got morbid, very morbid, I'm sorry, but again, that's my unpopular opinion probably, but that's how I feel. You don't get those memories back. So all right, so 6 and 7, my tips 6 and 7 go together. Tip number 6 is don't forget how to socialize with non-law school students. This was one of my biggest mistakes of first year is I kind of forgot how to not be a law student. Tip number 7, and I'll get back to explaining. Law student is not your identity, regardless of if it feels like it becomes your identity. So to go with this, essentially, every time I had a conversation with people that weren't in law school, all I did was talk about law school and people in law school and things about law school, and people don't care that much about law school people. Same thing with university. People are going to ask you questions, and so you can obviously answer them, but at the same time it's they don't need to hear about how you were this is a law school example, but you get cold called in law school, so you get stood up and then you get asked a bunch of questions in front of the entire class, and it might be mortifying. So I always talked about my most mortifying experience of law school, which can be a story time later, which was day 1 of property 1. If you were in that class, it's not about the Fox people. And if you're a law student, you know exactly what case that is, and if you don't, then you didn't pay attention to property, or you guys just didn't do the post case, or the Pearson v. Post case. Anywho, so law, being a law student became very much my identity, and it took till partway through my second year to, again, that kind of goes back to number 4 of keep your hobby and family, and you kind of just need to know it's okay to talk about law school because it's what is a huge chunk of your life, but make sure you have something outside of that you can talk about, because you're more than just being a law student. You have at least 20 years prior, because I know I had friends who came in as 20-year-olds to law school, so you have at least 20 years before law school to talk about or to gain things off. So even if you just do law school, during law school, you still have 20 years of other stuff to talk about. You might have a significant other you can talk about. You may have your favorite board game. You may have family that you can talk about. So don't forget how to talk to people in a normal way. Also, don't be pretentious. Just don't. Being in law school is a big deal, but I feel they also kind of inflate our egos a lot about how difficult it's difficult, don't get me wrong, but they definitely inflate our egos with how much more difficult it is, if that makes sense. Like, it's hard and it sucks, but it's also as hard as you make it. Number 8 is kind of a personal one for me. Failing or probation isn't like a taboo topic. I realized a lot of people were embarrassed to talk about it. I failed a class my first year of school. It was Common Law 1. And I was very open about it. I embraced it. I learned from my mistakes of that class. I realized the mistakes I made. I should have done different things. I should have studied differently. I should have handled doing briefs for that class differently. And overall, like, I recognized the errors I made. So the second time when I took it, because you had to retake it because it was a mandatory class, the second time I took it, I did substantially better. I got above an 80 in the class, which honestly was good because my brain didn't get common law. Like, some classes your brain just doesn't get. But I was on probation for a semester. I had to go see, our school does for probation, you have to go see a success coach, which essentially she gives you once a week you have to see her. She helps you with study habits. She helps you develop better study habits if you don't have them. She helps you with figuring out problems, where to find problems if you need that help, and she helps you with the classes that you feel like you're struggling in that semester. And so for me, that was really helpful. But I also recognized there was a lot of people that they didn't want to talk about it. They felt ashamed. And for me, I felt a lot less alone when I talked about it. And when I talked to 1Ls, I talked to 1Ls as a 3L, I was like, hey, I failed a class and I'm still here. It's not good to fail a class, but it's also not the end of the world. So don't stress yourself out of oh my God, if I fail a class, I'm out. That's not the case. The school doesn't want you to fail out. They do a lot to make it easy. They do a lot. I had 3 friends fail out of school first semester, but at the same time, failing, like I said, failing a probation isn't taboo. You feel like you're alone in it, but when you start talking to other people, you recognize that you're not the only one. I know a lot of people that failed or came close to failing a lot of classes. And the class that I failed, I've talked to attorneys in an interview and was oh yeah, I failed this teacher. And they've talked about how that was their lowest, because they went to the same law school that I did. They were oh yeah, with that professor, that was my lowest grade of law school. And that's something that we bonded over in an interview. And that was just because I was open about it and I wanted to be transparent. So for me, you should just embrace it, learn from your mistakes. You don't necessarily need to be as open about it as I am, but it doesn't hurt to talk to somebody about it. There's certain people that I learned that will judge you for it, but you can't help people that are going to be judgmental jerk bags and a-holes, to be quite frank. Okay, tip number 9. This is another one that's kind of personal. Family and friends may not understand what you're going through, but that's okay. You can find the people who you can rely on to rant about things. So for me, my fiance didn't necessarily always understand the stress that came with being on call. Being cold call is an experience that's hard to explain to other people, because they're oh, that sounds terrifying. And it is, but at the same time, it's kind of exhilarating, and it's hard. If you've never done it, it's hard to explain it. But when you've had a really good cold call and you crushed it, you're that was awesome. I killed that. That was great. If you had a really bad cold call, then you're oh, that pit of despair of I'm an idiot and everyone's gonna think I'm stupid, but everybody has those days. Also, I had friends that reached out to me, because Nick and I started dating the first week of law school, which is a whole different story again. We started dating the first week of law school, so along those lines, people from home, because I moved 12 hours away, people from home didn't always fully understand that I wasn't pulling away from them because of my relationship with Nick. I was pulling away I wasn't even purposely pulling away. I was just doing 14 plus hours of work a day on law school, which is why I'm saying know your limits and work at your own pace and take care of yourself, because you need those mental breaks, because working 14 hours a day drives you bonkers. Just telling you. So number 10. Imposter syndrome is a more common feeling than what you thought it was. I feel like the majority of people in school that I've talked to have had it at some point where they feel like I don't belong here. And so if you have those feelings, it's completely normal. And like, I wish I had known that, because I felt so out of place. A lot of people that I talked to, they were like, oh, you're a law student, you're a lawyer, you don't come across as a lawyer. And I get it. I'm more of a feelings person. I don't come across as this logical, calculating type personality. Regardless, imposter syndrome is more common than what you think it is. I actually talked to a few of our top of the class people, and they told me that they had it. And I'm like, dude, you're like one of the smartest people in our class, and you have imposter syndrome? What? And it's like, everybody feels like they don't belong somewhere. A lot of people believe that they're not smart enough, and it's normal. All right, so that's all I have for you guys today. For some reason, it cut off the end of my video, but I hope you guys enjoyed this kind of style video. Let me know if you guys want more tips and trick suggestions. I plan on doing a few more similar videos. If you like the style of this, or if you thought it was too long, let me know. Comment down below. But if you could give this video a big thumbs up, that would be great. And I will see you guys back here on Sunday with a vlog that shows you kind of what my life looks like post a bar exam and while I'm unemployed looking for a job and all of that. So I hope you guys enjoyed though, and I hope you guys have a wonderful rest of your week. I will see you guys back here on Sunday. So I love you. Oh, make sure you follow me on Instagram at MissJennaChristine_. It's linked down in the description box below, so it's easier for you guys to find. I am posting a lot more over there, and I try to post more stories and stuff about my life. So if you guys want to stay connected with me, that'd be great. All right, I love you guys. Bye.